Is this an extra session? Or is this yours?
I think they're getting more. Oh, they're getting more. And you're on the mic. So we'll share that.
I'm ready.
I mean, this is
Don't let you sit.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Normally, at this point in the time of the meeting, I would be convening a special meeting of the coordinating board, but we have found out in the last 48 hours that we have an issue with our posting, and so this will not be a special meeting this morning where we will be able to take action. That will have to be postponed. However, I know a lot of you all have come from various areas of the state, primarily the Houston area, and we have notified the U of H and Prairie View and Texas State folks of this, albeit very late, which I apologize to you all in the very beginning. But we're going to listen to the proposal and to other interested parties of what they might have to say today. One of the announcements I'd like to make before we go any further is to let you know, seated to Vice Chairman Adams' left is Attorney Bill Bettnauer from Austin, who has been hired by the coordinating board to advise us on OCR issues as they relate to the proposal. So I wanted to introduce Bill not only to my fellow board members this morning, but also those in the audience. Bill, welcome. We appreciate your guidance and counsel. What I'm going to do first, before I turn the podium over to Dr. Paredes to give us an overview of why we're here this morning and then move into the presentation, we have some elected officials with us. And I know their time is valuable and they have other commitments, so I would like to go ahead and call on them to make a few comments this morning. We have with us Representative Debbie Riddle from Houston. Representative Riddle, would you all like to come on up to the microphone? Also Representative Corbin Van Arsdale and Dan Patrick, a Senate District 7 candidate, and I understand that Representative Peggy Hamrick is here. Peggy, if you will please come forward. Representative Riddle, I learned a long time ago from my mother, I always let ladies go first, so I don't think anybody will take exception to that.
You have a very wise mother.
I would say something else in terms of the pecking order, which I really ought to do, and that would be to call on my old friend Peggy Hamrick, since she's a senior member, if you would defer to her to make her comments.
I would be delighted to defer to her.
Good morning, Representative Hamrick.
Good morning, Mr. Shepard and old friends, I guess. Yeah. So I'm delighted to be here this morning on this very, very important issue for Northwest Harris County. For the record, my name is Peggy Hamrick, and I am state representative for District 126, which does include the physical property of the old Compact campus, which is now the Hewlett-Packard properties, where the proposal to locate a University of Houston Northwest Harris County campus. This is a very important proposal for our area because we have a wonderful working relationship and we have great access to our community colleges in Northwest Harris County. Unfortunately, our students are not continuing, as are many of the students in Texas. Texas does not have a good record on our students finishing their 4 years of college. I would like to have this happen because I think we need to have a seamless transition. We now have it from our high schools to our community colleges, but have that seamless transition from our community college system into a 4-year program to continue the higher level courses as well as graduate courses. This is important because not only because of economic development, but also quality of life. And as you know, college graduates equate to a better standard of living for everyone. And also, there are so many other things that happen when people graduate from college. And I pulled up all of your resumes, and I can use all of you for an example. You have a lot of great degrees in all kinds of education, everything from aerospace engineering to education to business degrees to attorneys, oil and gas industry. But on those resumes, they are filled with all of the community activities that you have been involved in. And this would not have happened had you not had access to that education. This is what I want to see in my community. I want more college graduates, more participation in the community, so that we have a long-term commitment. There's a quote I'd like to read that I got from your Closing the Gaps. There's a statement in Closing the Gaps that says, Texas must take bold steps for the future success of its people. Well, I believe that this means all parts of Texas and all Texans must take bold steps for the success of its people. And I think you're going to see here today that you will have a commitment from your elected officials, your business community, your community colleges, and your public education system to take that bold step for education. This is a fast-growing area. I've lived in the area over 30 years. When I moved there, I live in the Cypress Fairbanks School District. It's named that because it was named after two small communities of Cypress and Fairbanks. Well, it's not a small community anymore. Cypress Fairbanks this fall opened their 8th high school. When I moved there in the early 70s, it was a one high school district. In 2 years from now, they will open number 9 and number 10. Cypress Fairbanks is now the 3rd largest school district in the state of Texas. And in not only Cy Fair, but we have Klein, Spring, Tomball, Aldine. They're all in Harris County. And then right outside Harris County, fast-growing Montgomery County, we have Conroe ISD and Magnolia ISD that would feed into the system. So probably included in that would be at least 250,000 students in those 7 school districts that would have access to a 4-year college education. So this is not only important for education, it's important for economic development and for the future of our state. I appreciate you allowing me to be here today, and you really hold the key to allowing us to do this, and we certainly would appreciate any consideration that you might give this proposal. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Representative Hamrick. We're happy to have you, here this morning. Next, I'd like to call on Representative Debbie Riddle. Debbie, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you very much. Forgive my voice for being a little bit croaky this morning. I'm still getting over some pneumonia, so, but at least I have a voice. I'm very thankful for that. I represent, for the record, I'm Debbie Riddle, State Representative, District 150. My district is in North Harris County. The boundaries go from 1960 to the south to the county line to the north, a little east of Tomball all the way out to, it extends all the way out to Atascocita, to give you some, if you can visualize about where that is. And I would like to ditto what Representative Hamrick had to say. It is critical for us to continue having opportunities for our young people to seek higher education. But I'm going to step aside. I'm not going to go through the statistics and that kind of thing, because I think that you already are aware of the statistics. Access to higher education is something that Representative Hamrick said, and I think it is something that you need to seriously consider. And I'm going to tell you my story, which is my perspective and a little bit personal, and I think that it will tell you why I'm passionate of this issue and having the University of Houston with access for the kids in my district and for the people in my district. The percentage of economically disadvantaged young people in my district is growing. The statistics, I think, are alarming. but nevertheless, it's there. It's fact. When I was 17 and my parents divorced, when I was 18 and graduated from Waltrip Senior High in Houston, I'm a native Houstonian, I had been accepted to Stephen F. Austin four-year university. I chose not to go because I felt like I needed to stay at home and help my mother. My little brother was only 3, by then he was 4. I didn't know I was economically disadvantaged. No one told me. But I knew that I needed to work, and I knew that I needed to seek higher education because I did want to go to college, though I did not feel like I needed to leave my mom in order to do so. So I chose to go to South Texas Junior College, which is now the University of Houston downtown. I had to take the bus. I had to walk away to get to the bus, and I did that for 2 years. I didn't have a car. I couldn't afford a car. I like to tell my kids I walked uphill both ways, but that doesn't work because everybody knows Houston's flat as a pancake. But nevertheless, I rode the bus downtown. I did get my Associate of Arts degree. After that, I went to Southwestern University. My husband and I got married, and I went to Southwestern University. But the fact is, I would not have been able to seek higher education had I not been able to use public transportation in the form of a bus to get there. It's simply logistics. There's a lot of kids in my district that are in that same situation. They don't have a car. They don't have the money to get the car. There is not public transportation out to Prairie View. There's not public transportation out to Sam Houston. So they're stuck. If we had the University of Houston in our area, Metro could get them there, Metro could get them back. And I understand their plight because I was there. I understand the arguments against it, but I've got to tell you, I really encourage each one of you to look at the kids, look at their future, look at the potential, and look at the potential we will be wasting if they do not have access. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative Riddle. Next, we have Representative Corbin Van Arsdale from Houston.
Well, I want to thank y'all for having this meeting, for calling it, and for attending. I think you can see, based on who all showed up, this is a pretty big deal to folks in our area. I'm Corbin Van Arsdale, and I serve House District 130. I serve the people in Stafford, Tomball, Waller, and also some Klein area. And, you know, normally when I hear from a lot of people on issues, it's usually, you know, something they're mad about, something they're upset about, something they don't like. And so anytime an issue comes along where you hear something positive or something that they're excited about, it really gets your attention. And this is definitely one of those kind of issues. I mean, I started getting, as soon as something popped into the paper about this a couple weeks ago, I started getting a lot of positive comments, not just from students, but from a lot of adults in the area who simply, they're in situations where they're just not going to go to school anywhere else. If there's not a school there, they just can't do it, whether it's gas costs or energy costs or children responsibility or work jobs. They're just not going to travel to Sam. They're not going to travel to Prairie View A&M. And so I have dozens of these emails, okay? I'm not going to read them all, but I would like to read excerpts from 2 of them. This one says, good morning. I'm a single mother of 2 teenage girls. I need 32 hours to finish a degree. The problems are gas money and the distance of the educational facilities from Tomball. Myself, I need the educator in front of me. I need that one-on-one with the teacher. The night courses are not an option at this time. I have to be here for my children. My choices at this time are to either be at home at night for my girls or leave them unsupervised and go to school. My youngest daughter is upset with me because she knows that if I finished my education, we would have a better life financially. It would be a dream come true if there was an educational facility near Tomball. And here's another one. I, my family, and everyone I know supports the U of H plans for a new campus. My husband is an HP employee, and many of them are excited about being able to attend as I am. I have been wanting to return to school for years, but the drive to U of H campuses from my home is too far. And I have dozens of these things. And you know, when you look at what's happening in the world, I mean, I work in the private sector, my real job, and I know some of you do too. And you see what's happening with especially Asia, some of the Asian students, and the education going on there. And that our jobs, we're not just competing with Louisiana or Oklahoma, we're competing with India and China. I mean, this is affecting our wages. This is affecting our standing in the world. And, you know, we have some Indian kids working for us in my company. And it's just something that we can't afford to sit there and not do anything about. I mean, we have kids out here, we have adults out here, they want to be educated. We have the opportunity to get them educated. And I just don't see how we can not do that. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you being here. Next, we have Senate District 7 candidate Dan Patrick with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Shepard. Thank you, members of the board. Hopefully, we'll be in Austin in January with a 73% Republican district, and so hopefully we'll be there and look forward to working with you in the future. I came today because I share a little bit of Debbie's story, but I also wanted to share some facts and figures with you. Approximately 6,000 to 8,000 of the current students at the University of Houston main campus come from West Harris County. As I drove up here on 290 today and saw traffic backed up for 20 miles, we'll take some cars off of the road. Secondly, 70% of the students who go to U of H work 30 hours a week. Money means everything to them. They're making a 50 to 60 mile round trip every day, depending where they live. You calculate that up at the cost of gasoline today, that's a couple of $100 a month of gas. Now, if you're a student working your way through school 30 hours a week, $200 means a lot. The current campus is already crowded. I think this campus will not only attract new students, but I think this campus will take, the new campus will take a burden off the current campus, and a lot of the students who are making that trek, who are filling up our freeways, who are spending hard-earned dollars, will go to this campus as well. So there's some practical matters to consider this. Secondly, we know we have a problem in our secondary education today. You know, it's our goal of our teachers and our principals and our counselors to inspire our children to stay in school and excel and give them the desire to get a higher education. Wouldn't it be a shame to waste that effort and have a child who wants to go on to get a 4-year degree, and either there's no place to go or they can't afford to get that degree? I mean, isn't the goal of our elementary and secondary education to prepare our students for that opportunity? Because of the 10% rule, we have a lot of not only economically disadvantaged children in this area, but we have a lot of hardworking middle-class kids that are in very good school districts in that area who get A's and B's, but they don't quite make the top 10%. And so they're stuck. Where do we go? Do we go to a community college? And there's nothing wrong with the community college system, but some students would prefer to go to a 4-year school. So where do they go? If their parents can't afford to send them to TCU or SMU and Baylor, which are all quite expensive, they're really stuck in many cases. So this campus will take, I think, a burden off the main campus so that campus can continue to grow. I think it will help a lot of students who are working to be closer to home, to save money and be on that campus. I think it will give students who fall outside of the 10% rule a great option they now do not have. And lastly, it's going to give an option to the kids that Debbie's speaking about, because when I grew up in Baltimore in 1968, a long time ago, I wanted to go to the University of Maryland, and I couldn't afford it. I had great parents, they just couldn't afford room and board and the tuition. To my great fortune, UMBC, which today has 20,000 students, I believe, enrolled, and is a major university of University of Maryland campus system, it was their first year. It was my good fortune in 1968 they opened that campus, just like this campus would open in January. And I was in the first graduating class. And I was able to work 30 hours a week, and I was able to go to a school 10 miles away, and I was able to get a degree from a great university that was a 4-year degree. The University of Houston is a great university. It's a degree you're proud to hang on your wall. And if you will approve, when you get a chance to vote for this, if you will approve this campus, I think not only are you going to see a short-term benefit to the area, but you're going to see a long-term benefit to the area. You know, our state's going to grow dramatically over the next 15 to 20 years. Our area is going to grow dramatically over the next 15 or 20 years. We're going to need those classroom seats. We're going to need the convenience, and we're going to need the affordability so our kids today who are in 2nd and 5th and 7th and 8th grade have a chance to go to school and get a quality education close to their home. So I urge you, when you can vote, to support this program. This will be one of the great universities in the state. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. We appreciate you being here this morning. I know you have other commitments, so if you need to leave now, you're welcome. Thank you all. What I'm going to do is turn it over just a second to Dr. Paredes to give us a little bit of an overview here before we call on the institutions for a very short presentation. Dr. Gardner, I think you've talked to all of them, have you not? Okay. Dr. Paredes?
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Shepard. I'd like to simply just give everyone a quick overview of the process that we've had underway several months. We first got wind of this project in, I believe, in early June, and we were told by representatives of the University of Houston that there was a deadline for the acquisition of the property on which the proposed facility would be built. And so we, knowing that there was a sense of urgency about this, we tried to move as quickly as we could, recognizing that ultimately the most important consideration for the coordinating board, as the staff brought this issue to the attention of the coordinating board, was not the attractiveness of the real estate deal, but rather the overriding issue of what is in the best interests of higher education in Texas, and not only what is in the best interest of students in this area, potential students in this area, but given the overall needs of Texas in higher education, where would this project fit? And that is a complex question that required a great deal of data collection and a great deal of consultation with educational leaders, not only in the immediate area affected by this proposed project, but other leaders in education as well. We obviously initially had to establish some information regarding, or gather some information regarding the demographics of the region in which the proposed campus would be built. We determined that this is indeed, as we just heard, one of the most rapidly growing areas in Texas. We came to understand that this is not only an area which is growing very rapidly, one of the fastest growing areas once again in the state, but it's also an area where there are high college going rates, and so we established that this is not only an area that is growing quickly demographically, but it's also an area where there will be very significant increased demand for higher education over the next 10 to 15 years. We also took a look at other programs in the area, the programs offered by other institutions. We've heard about Prairie View A&M, and we took a look at the programs offered by Sam Houston State, not only on its base campus, but also at the University Center, which is approximately 22 miles away. We looked at a variety of factors regarding the projected need for given programs, professional programs, undergraduate programs, and so forth. It became very clear that this proposed facility could only be viable if there were a high level of cooperation among the various institutions that either are operating currently in this general region or proposed to. And so we, from the very beginning, we urged University of Houston representatives to speak to their colleagues on the other campuses and see if we could come to some joint agreements about how to proceed with this project. One of the complicating matters, of course, when you have a sense of urgency, is that we received this project in the summer, so it was difficult to convene all the interested parties, and that slowed things down. We have looked at all the factors, and we have I believe we've established clearly that there's certainly going to be an increased need for educational opportunity in this area. As recently as the end of last week, some of the various campuses have been communicating with one another and have been proposing partnerships and have been proposing how the collaborations would work. We received information about one of these proposals as recently as Saturday. So that it seems to me that this is still a highly fluid situation. There's still a number of issues that need to be considered, and so at this point, the staff is not prepared to make a recommendation to the board, and we feel that there's still some due diligence to be performed at this point.
Thank you, Commissioner. What we'd like to do at this point in time...
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I think in fairness to those that might not be aware of it, the staff, we did distribute a recommendation from the staff to the affected institutions, I think, as late as Saturday.
It was Saturday.
Yeah.
I believe some of them may not have even seen it. I understand the email system was down.
I think also posted on the coordinating board website as well. But that, again, as the Commissioner says, a work in progress as we move forward on this. So I'll be sure everybody understood that.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. What we'd like to do at this point in time is call on the U of H for their presentation. I know Jay Gooch is here, the Chancellor. Good morning, and has some other representatives. If you'll please introduce them. What I failed to do that I should have done in the very beginning, he's already had dinner with us and got to know each other, so sometimes I forget he's the new kid on the block, but I think it is very important to introduce our newest member and attending his first meeting this morning, Fred Heldenfels. Fred, welcome.
Thank you.
This is not normal, the way you should start off your
there goes my low profile
coordinating board career, but we're happy to have you here this morning.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Jay Gooch. I serve as president of the University of Houston, and I wanted to make a few general comments and then let me introduce folks that will talk specifically about the program and about the facilities. I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to the board. I know that this is not business as usual. I certainly appreciate the work of the staff, and I'd have to say I appreciate the opportunity to have met and interacted with colleagues at other institutions. While we don't necessarily agree on all things, it's certainly been helpful, and there's no doubt in my mind that they care deeply about closing the gaps and about the people of Texas and us doing the right thing. And so while we don't agree, I still think it's important to recognize that it's been a very good faith and been a very helpful discussion that we've had. I want you to think a little bit about the creation of the University of Houston, 1927. It's a two-year school. The mission statement then was that we are to serve the working men and women of Houston and their children. That's a very different mission statement than you see at many institutions, the working men and women of Houston and their children. We think we've been fairly loyal to that. The actual numbers of students on the central campus that work 30 hours a week or more are 82%. 82% of our students work 30 hours a week or more. The average age of a bachelor's degree on our campus is 26 plus years. It is not a traditional student cohort that goes to the University of Houston. When you look at the University of Houston Victorian Clear Lake, which is the model that we're proposing out in that location in the Northwest, the average age of a student there is over 32 years of age. So a very different concept than the normal traditional student that most of us think about. In fact, I think it's important to realize that nationwide, if you look at the age of the traditional student, 18 to 24, that is only 42% of the people that go to college in the United States that are in that traditional cohort of 18 to 24 years of age. So we have been the place where that other 58% obviously looks at higher education opportunities. I share this with you because I think one of the key issues is really whether or not we're duplicating efforts, duplicating programs of other institutions. And I think if that is the major issue in our mind, it's incumbent upon us to try to explain a little bit how we look at duplication of effort or duplication of programs. Number one, we're not offering courses to freshmen and sophomores. So that really means that we're not duplicating anything that community colleges do. 50% of the courses are guaranteed not to be duplicated. Number two, we do not anticipate a residential campus. And so when you look at that, for those students, particularly the traditional age student that looks at an opportunity to enjoy a residential campus experience, this is probably not going to be a facility that they would select. Number three, short mileages in urban areas are a huge factor in access. And I have to tell you, I've never lived and worked at a university in an urban area, and I thought it was ridiculous when I came 3 years ago that we would have a campus centrally, and then we have one 3 miles away, the University of Houston downtown, that serves 11,000 students. Central campus serves about 36,000 students. Then I look, and it's only about 7 miles to Pearland, and we've got an operation in Pearland. And then when I go to Clear Lake, they teach in 12 different locations in the Clear Lake vicinity. And then I thought it's strange that here we are 2.5 miles from the Texas Medical Center, and when I look over there, and that serves about 78,000 people. We've got a community college, we got the University of Houston, we got Prairie View, we got Texas A&M, we got the University of Texas, we got Texas Women's College there. We've got a whole host of educational opportunities 2.5 miles from our campus. TSU is also there. So short mileages that for a guy that's coming out of the rural part of the country, it's hard for me to really relate to why 3 or 4 miles makes that much difference, or 22 miles, or whatever the distance may be. But our experience is that it makes a huge difference. A fourth point that I would argue that affects duplication of effort is that the time that classes are offered have a tremendous impact. You've got morning classes, you've got early afternoon, you've got late afternoon, you've got evening classes, you've got weekend classes, and cohorts of students separate and segment themselves around work schedules as place-bound adults in terms of what they can fit into their schedule. And so, to me, access is somewhat time-related to when you offer particular programs. The fifth point has to do with course and degree content. Multiple institutions can offer the same degree at the same location at the same time, and I can assure you that that is really not duplication of effort. Content is grossly different. The focus of degree programs is different, even if they carry the same name as a bachelor's of whatever it might be. And the employment opportunities are very different based on the content that was provided and the reputation and image of a particular program within any of our institutions. I'd use the example of plant science, which is my background. You can go the molecular route, you can go the very applied route, you can go in agronomy, you can go in horticulture, you can go in woody ornamentals, you can go in floriculture, you can go in pomology, you can go in olericulture, you can go in turf. There's a whole array, but it still carries the same name of the degree. And I would argue that that's really not duplication of effort, as institutions have very specialized programs that focus on the needs of those particular students. A sixth point, and it's been mentioned earlier, has to do with the market size and demand. The Cy-Fair area in 1990 was 875,502, according to the census. Today it's 1.4 million. It has grown by 60%. The 5-year projection for that region is 15.5% growth rate. We know that there are nearly 30,000 students in the community colleges in that region. And we also know there's a recent study that looked at the 60 top metropolitan areas in the United States, and Houston ranks 59th among the 60 in per capita college enrollment. So we tend to agree that there is an immense demand in that area. We know that there are 750,000 people within 10 miles of this proposed campus location site, 750,000 people. We know that we can't do it alone, and we know that we'll need help from other institutions. We welcome every institution to recruit in Houston as aggressively as they can. For all of us to make Texas a better place, we're going to need everybody trying to educate the numbers. If what we've seen of 630,000 is what we're trying to provide new seats for, it's extremely important. And then I want to mention cost. We do serve a lot of place-bound students, working students, but I often think of the Cy-Fair area as a wealthy area. And I'm sure there is wealth in that area. But I was shocked when I saw that 7 K-12 school districts, 7 in that area, 40% of those kids are on the free lunch program. So there's a lot of kids that really opportunities to expand and go and to enjoy what we hope many of that other 60% can look at in terms of a residential campus experience. Those kids may not have any other opportunity. In conclusion, let me just say that on our central campus, your data indicates from the coordinating board that we're 632,000 square feet below what we need for the number of students that we currently have. The downtown campus is about 240,000 square feet below what it needs for the current number of students that it has. We view this as a great opportunity to help us try to deal with some space deficit issues that we have to serve that region in a more effective manner. We think the price on the property that we've looked at is fair. We've worked out mechanisms to be able to fund it, and we have received word and would expect the community there to make very strong private investments in this project. We have not gone out into any area in which roughly 50% of the cost are not borne by the local community to support facilities. And so we expect this to be to leverage our monies, and we certainly expect community participation and involvement to make this project work. And we're ready to begin our programs in the spring of '07. I'd like to ask our provost, Dr. Don Foss, to make a few comments about the academic program. And Don, when you finish, I'll ask John Rudley and David Irwin to talk a bit about our facilities. Dr. Foss.
Dr. Foss, before we do that, I'd like to recognize the chairman of your Board of Regents who's with us this morning, Mr. Leroy Hermes. Leroy, thank you very much for being here, and welcome. Dr. Foss, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm also really appreciative of the board members for taking special time to hear this presentation, and also the staff who've done a lot of work, and the commissioner who's done a lot of work on this as well. As this opportunity presented itself to us, it was in the strategic plan of the University of Houston to try to serve this area. Admittedly not on the scope and the timetable that we now present to you. This real estate as the occasion for this opportunity, but it's not the reason for the opportunity. Our colleagues from the community have stated the reasons for this, and the commissioner and the staff have acknowledged the fact that there is a need to serve this region. What is somewhat different and certainly challenging about our proposal relative to the way that higher education has been grown in the recent past in Texas is, as Representative Hamrick said, the Closing the Gaps said that bold steps need to be taken, and I guess I would characterize this as one of those bold steps. We are proposing not to grow a set of academic programs piecemeal, wait for enrollments to quote-unquote justify the presentation of programs. We believe quite firmly and quite strongly that the need and the students in that region justify the existence of a rather aggressive set of programs. So what we have proposed is a kind of all-in move for this community where over a small number of years we would introduce into that location 40-plus academic programs, as Chancellor Googe said, at the upper division and the master's level. We have a lot of existing articulation agreements with community colleges in our region and have already worked with North Harris Montgomery Community College. We're developing programs with advisors in our regional community colleges, and we would expect to develop deep relationships with the community colleges in that region in order for there to be a seamless transition for the students on the academic path from those community colleges to get a baccalaureate degree at this new institution. We will be happy to offer space in this to our sister institutions should they wish to avail themselves of it. I would also like to mention that there is, as you've already heard, widespread support from the community. I might just take a moment to recognize some other individuals who are here. I would just like to acknowledge, and maybe ask them to wave at you or to briefly stand. They're behind me, so I can't see them. But the Reverend Glenn Wilkerson, who's been very active in this, and who serves in addition to his pastoral duties as chair of the board of the Cypress Creek Cultural District. Mr. Tom Davis, also from the Cypress Creek Cultural District. Darcy Mingoya from the Cypress Fairbanks Chamber of Commerce, if she's here. Ms. Barbara Thomason from the Houston Northwest Chamber of Commerce. Ms. Regina Curry, Assistant Superintendent of the Spring Independent School District. Mr. Bill Franks, who is the chair of the Greater 1960 Improvement Corporation. And if I haven't mentioned a name, I wish you would all stand up to indicate your interest in this. So there is a lot of interest from the business community, from the educational programs, both at the secondary and at levels and above, as a concrete way for us to help serve the students in the state of Texas and in particular in that region. And if I may, I'd like to close by also quoting something, perhaps from the same document that Representative Hambrick quoted from the Texas Higher Education Plan, Closing the Gaps. Says, Texas has the opportunity to significantly improve the accessibility and quality of education for its people to enrich the future of both the individual and the state. To do this, a commitment must be made to close the gaps within the state in enrollment and success. And it goes on. And we believe that our proposal to help the state and its students does so in just those ways that you all wished. Thank you, and I'm certainly available to answer questions.
Yeah. Dr. Rudley. Thank you. I'm John Rudley, the Vice President for Finance for the University of Houston. I'm joined by Dave Urban, who is the Assistant Vice President for Facilities Management at the University of Houston. We are here to provide you with information with respect to the purchase of land and buildings, which we have identified as the Northwest Campus proposal. I can tell you that we are still in negotiation with the sellers to determine the final purchase price, and as of this date, they're looking at about $33 million at a minimum for 47 gross acres of land with improvements, which includes 3 4-story office buildings that were once the Compact World headquarters, built in 1984 to 1986. It includes a manufacturing building, 287,000 square feet, 2 parking garages that will house 750 cars each, and this is also 761 total square footage when you add up all the facilities. Before I ask Dave to show you a little bit about what the property looks like, I'd like to talk a little bit about questions that have been raised about how the University of Houston proposes to pay for this facility and operations. Now, in our initial assumptions, we have break-even analysis that we have prepared, and that within that break-even analysis, we have revenue assumptions. Those revenue assumptions include the fact that we should have 3,675 students per year who will contribute about $3,000 per year. That will provide revenue of about $11.2 million. We expect a mix of students to be half graduate and half undergraduate students. From that $11.2 million, we'll have to pay for faculty. We assume 42 faculty in the first full year of operations. That's going to cost about $6 million, including academic costs and support that goes with that. In addition to that, we're going to have to pay for maintenance and operation. We expect that to be $2 million a year, which is about $6 per square foot for maintenance and operations. And by the time we finish paying for those items, we'll have to also consider debt service on the loan that we're going to take out. We expect debt service to be about $3.1 million a year, and we'll issue bonds for 30 years at 5.5% interest rate. Now, if we miss our revenue targets, we could, in the first year, full year of operations, 07-08, or in 08-09, or in 2010-11, we could run an aggregate deficit of about $20 million for the first 3 years. And the way that works out is if we attract only 1,000 students in the first year, 07-08, we'll have to cover an $8 million deficit. In the second year, 08-09, if we attract only 2,000 students, we will run a deficit of $7 million. And in the third year, 2009 and 2010, if we attract 3,000 students, we could run a deficit of $5 million for that year. Also during that year, the state form of funding may kick in. So we anticipate reaching, hopefully, break-even point, at least after the third year of operation, in 2010 to 2011. Now, we communicated to the local community that $20 million toward this effort would be a good thing. The fundraising effort is currently planned for the northwest area of Houston, and we expect hopefully $4 million a year for 5 years that would help with our scenarios. We would receive formula funding, as I said, in 07-08 for some of the students that are starting to come in the pipeline. We would be able to lease a building for maybe $2.3 million at a going rate of about $22 a square foot to any of the businesses out there or some of our other colleagues who are interested in occupying some of the space out there. We have a couple other scenarios that said we could, at the end of 3 years, only lose $1.3 million. We have another scenario that says we can lose 6.5. So you can see in the first 3 years it's going to be very important in terms of the number of students we're able to attract at that site. Now, our fallback position is going to be that we will have some HEAF monies to be able to allocate to the project. In addition, we'll be able to move one of our currently rented operations that we pay $1.3 million at another site. We could move to that site, thereby adding rental income to that site to the tune of $1.2 million. So you can see, for me and for our discussions with Dr. Foss, the number of students that we have out there, the type of courses we have out there are very important in order for us to a profitable operation at the end of the third or fourth year. With that, I'd like Dave Irwin to give you a slide presentation on what the property looks like.
Well, as you've heard, this is a large area of Houston that has a large need. Luckily, our proposal includes a large and very exciting facility that's a terrific opportunity. It's on State Highway 249, very close to a lot of different highways, very close to Willowbrook Mall, so it's a terrific location that's very convenient to both the community colleges and to the high schools in the area. Next slide. As Dr. Rudley said, it's 47 acres. The appraisal we have is that the land alone is worth $13 million. In terms of facilities, there are 3 4-story office buildings. We'll show you in a second. Total of those buildings is about 231,000 rentable square feet. There's also a large manufacturing building with high bays that can be used for research or for other uses of 297,000 square feet, rentable square feet. Total that adds up to about 580,000 gross square feet. If you were to build that new, you would be looking at about $130 million to build buildings of that size new. In addition, in terms of parking, there are 4 garages with a total of 1,500 spaces and 500 surface spaces. If you were to build those new, you'd be looking at $22 million. So a very significant investment if you had to create this from scratch. Next slide. Okay. Very quickly, this is the site plan that shows the 4 buildings on the top with the parking garages on each side and the manufacturing building down below. Next slide. an aerial view, and you can see it's heavily wooded. It's just north of the large office buildings that you see there, so it's sort of on the right, or the left side of your slide. Next slide. In terms of the first building, we'd be looking at 3 of the 4 floors being leased space for either other educational institutions or offices. The 3rd floor would be a computer center that's there. It would also be a great center for emergency operations if we needed it at the University of Houston, because there's full emergency generator backup. Next slide. The second building would have classrooms on 2 floors, as illustrated on the left, and offices and support space on the upper 2 floors. The third building then would have a mix of space. On the first floor would have the library, bookstore, food service, those sorts of things, and upper floors would have some additional support space, as well as the rental that we currently have at other off-campus sites. On the right shows a schematic of the manufacturing area. Again, it's very flexible, so there's lots of things it can be used for. Next slide. Very quickly, we'll show you some views. This is the exterior of the office buildings. They're all very similar, very, very good shape. Next slide. Some interiors, and the good part about the manufacturing building that we show here is that, again, it's very flexible. Next slide. Again, some interiors showing you the flexibility. And there's also a full central plant, so it's a terrific property and a terrific opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gooch. We appreciate it. I need to move on to, we have some other institutional representatives today that want to speak this morning. I do have some time issues for some board members that have some commitments, so I would ask you to keep your comments brief. First, I would like to call on Dr. George Wright, the president of Prairie View A&M. Dr. Wright, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I, too, am very happy to have this opportunity to speak this morning. I would like to thank the board for extending this to me. Back in June, when I met with you previously, I started off by complaining that I felt like I had not been consulted enough by the University of Houston on exactly what it wanted to do. I must say that since that time, their provost, Don Foss, came out and visited with me, spent an afternoon, talked with me at length. We communicated by email in something that seemed very unusual to me, but it spoke to how serious people are. A member of the Board of Regents of the University of Houston, a man by the name of Calvin Stevens, along with several other people, came to my office and spent several hours talking with me as well. This past week, Chancellor Gooch drove all the way out in the heat and the traffic, and even had to endure the traffic on the way back to meet with me as well. And as Dr. Gooch said in his comments, maybe there is some disagreement, although I'm not so sure. I disagree with the main points, as you will see, but there is no question in my mind about the sincerity of the University of Houston representatives, about their commitment to higher education, about their commitment to closing the gap and all of the other issues as well. And I do appreciate, that's why I wanted to publicly let everyone know that I appreciate all of the time that they have invested in talking with me and my colleagues. Briefly, I wanted to start off by mentioning several points specifically about Prairie View to try to put it into a context before I then mention some other aspects. I'm not exaggerating when I say that of all of the institutions I've been affiliated with since I started as a student in college in 1968, Prairie View has the most complex mission, maybe even a contradictory mission. I'll put it in the context that I taught at the University of Kentucky, where I also have a bachelor's and master's degree from. Its mission is very clear, to be the institution of the first class, and it's the flagship there. I was affiliated with UT Austin in various capacities for 13 years. Its mission says it is to be a university of the first rank, and it not only in Texas but throughout the world. I have a PhD from Duke. I also held an endowed chair at Duke. Duke is very clear that it is to be a premier university in the world, and by all accounts that seems to be the case. Prairie View, one of 3 universities mentioned in the Texas Constitution, as being a university of the first class. UT Austin, Texas A&M, College Station, Prairie View are mentioned. We're very proud of that designation, and I think we have some programs that even if you don't agree that these are in the first rank throughout the world, I think everyone would agree on how significant these programs are. Yet at the same time, unlike UT, unlike A&M, Prairie View's charter was amended about 20 years ago to say that it is to be a university to serve, quote, the underserved in urban and rural Texas. And there are certain programs that Prairie View was to institute to serve urban and rural parts of Texas. Undergirding all of this related to Prairie View is something that I think a lot of us have gotten tired of talking about, and that is the legacy of racial discrimination and segregation in the state of Texas. I am a historian by training, and I've written articles and books that talk about the discrimination that blacks have faced, especially in the area of segregation in higher education. I gave testimony for the state of Texas in the Hopwood case. I wrote a document for the Hopwood case that outlined segregation and its effects on institutions like Prairie View. One of the questions I constantly ask, and I think it's implicit in what we're doing, are we saying that the deck has been leveled? Are we saying that the vestiges of the past have ended? And I realize that's an open question. In addition to that, when I became president of Prairie View, I said the first day, I said on Friday, that Prairie View, despite the fact that it was started for black Texans, it must be a university for, quote, all Texans, with a special emphasis on those who need special services. Hispanic Texans, newcomers from Asia, Africa, South America to Texas, the whites who don't often have, as was mentioned earlier today, opportunities to go elsewhere. That is a commitment we are making at that university, but it's also consistent with the 1983 Texas Plan and the OCRA agreement that was hammered out. Briefly, while I haven't seen the more recent proposal that has been submitted by the University of Houston, last Thursday when Chancellor Gouge met with me, he gave me an agreement that he hoped could be a working relationship between Prairie View and the University of Houston. Again, there are some points down there that we are not in disagreement on. What seem to be issues where we still must continue the dialogue was one crucial point that said that Prairie View and U of H would be allowed to run any, it said, undergraduate and graduate level programs. It did not specify, maybe it should have, that these would be upper division undergraduate courses. But nevertheless, that was there. And then one of the last points said that any programs, any course offerings that are now offered on the main campus could be offered on this branch campus. Now, they've mentioned that they would have X number of programs, but implied in that would be they could offer any programs there. In response, in my proposal, I mentioned the right of first refusal for Prairie View, that Prairie View, already operating in that area, would be very concerned about duplication. Therefore, we believe that we should have the right of first refusal. And I also, in the proposal, spoke of limiting U of H to certain type of programs, but specifically at the upper level, undergraduate and at graduate level. I want to mention, as I close, several key points that I think address the coordinating board. The state of Texas has made, over a period of years, a substantial investment in Prairie View A&M University. People tell me that if you were to go to that campus 20 years ago and to go there now, that it is a substantially different place physically. I know it's different with the program offerings and so forth. Prairie View has risen to the occasion from the funding that the state of Texas has given it. And I could give you numerous examples of all of the new programs that have gone through the coordinating board, the licensure rate on all of our programs, and the like. We are on schedule with our buildings and other initiatives. All along, we have had a plan to grow, and we have been growing, not only on our main campus, but in the Northwest Corridor as well. We realized long ago that we could not reach our goals under the closing the gaps by just concentrating our efforts on the campus solely, that we had to branch out, and we've been doing this. But here's the key point for me as a historian and as a president. Just like Prairie View did not get into the situation overnight, the discrimination, the neglect, and all of the other things existed for well over 100 years. Prairie View will not reach all of its goals over the next 5 years or 7 years. What is being proposed has the potential to limit efforts already underway by Prairie View in the Northwest Corridor. As a result of the investment the state of Texas has made in Prairie View, we have access space. We have the potential to grow even more. We're going to grow on our campus. We want to grow in the Northwest Corridor as well. It is the hope of Prairie View that whatever strategic plan the coordinating board has about creating, whether it's new centers or new programs or new campuses, that it will look to Prairie View to provide services in the Northwest Corridor. I also believe, as president of Prairie View, I have the responsibility to inform the state of Texas that the OCR funds, which are scheduled to run out September the 1st, 2007, coupled with the approval of U of H to expand into that area, has the dual effect of hurting Prairie View's growth in all of the areas that have occurred over the last few years. There are things we will do no matter if U of H is given the authority to move there, but we have to be realistic and say, given the percentage of Prairie View students that come from that area, we will suffer with U of H being there. For one thing, Prairie View has made progress in the diversity issue, something that the state of Texas said point blank that TSU and Prairie View had to do. My final comments, like the University of Houston, and I would say all of the other schools, I too am a believer, a supporter of access. One of the state representatives went into great detail. I could go into great detail and tell you my story about what access means to me. But suffice it for the moment, I will say I believe in access as much as everyone else. And any comments that would suggest otherwise is not consistent with the way I view higher education. I believe, however, that not everyone agrees with me on the ill effects of the past on the present. In other words, I'm not so sure most people understand the vestiges of what Texas's discrimination did to an institution like Prairie View. I just asked the question, is the deck leveled? Do all schools have the right now to compete fairly? My final point, I think it speaks to, and I've been trying to think of the right word, and I apologize if I'm not using the right word, but I think it speaks to the differences, if nothing else, between an institution like Prairie View and an institution like University of Houston, maybe with prestige, maybe with power or something. 4 individuals, 3 of whom are already elected to office, 1 who's running for office, came and spoke on behalf of U of H. They've also pointed out X number of other people who've come. I'm up here alone. I'm not alone at the end of the day. There are plenty of people who support me, but if you decide to take a vote, if you decide to use opinion polls, I have no doubt that the University of Houston would win in that. Is that best for higher education? I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Dr. Wright, thank you for your comments. Most people that know you and have heard you speak would probably indicate that's probably an even fight. We appreciate your comments. I've also been made aware of, and I can see Chancellor Robert McTeer from the A&M system. I'm happy to have you here this morning. Two other people that we want to hear from this morning. We have Chancellor Charles Matthews from the Texas State University system here. Charles, I know you're here. You are. Please come forward. And then also Dr. James Gatner, the president of Sam Houston State University. Charles, I know you don't need anybody either. I know you're happy to have.
I always thought I was my own delegation. That's what happens when you've done it a long time. Mr. Chairman, members, thank you very much for having me here. I'm Charles Matthews. I'm Chancellor of the Texas State University system, and of course, Sam Houston State University is a member of that system. We have, Dr. Gatton and I were talking yesterday, we have ruined our summer dealing with this issue, and it was not an issue that was on our radar screen as we tried to wrestle with this. It just kind of came to us from left field. Dr. Googe is a colleague, and I have great respect for him and the people in his system and the work that they do for Texas. I would say that our Board of Regents, not only today but in the past, really did take to heart closing the gap. If you look at the schools in our system, you will see that the highest number of minority students in Texas are served by the institutions in our system. We've always been very proud of that because that means that our campuses are doing something right. They're welcoming places. They're places that attract readily minorities and people who are disadvantaged to our schools. Our regents have always been committed to low cost, and our schools are always in the bottom 1/3 of cost for students that are seeking a four-year degree. We've really worked hard to make sure that has happened. When you look at Sam Houston State University, there's some things that I'm very proud about. Last year, 25% of all of the growth in higher education came from this one institution. They grew at 7.1%, way in excess of anybody else in Texas. Must be doing something right. When you look at their SAM Center, their Student Advising and Mentoring Center, people from all over the country, not just Texas, have come to Sam Houston to look and see what they're doing to retain those students once they attract them. They're doing an excellent job in retaining the students as they come to Sam Houston. As you look at the increases in minority, both Hispanic and African American, you will see that this institution continues to increase those numbers. The University Center that was mentioned earlier in the Woodlands on the campus of North Harris County Montgomery Junior College was the first MITSI in the state. This very board hailed that 10 years ago is the way to go, is the way to deal with higher education in a way that's cost effective. Sam Houston has made a major commitment to that center. In fact, if you look at the students that attend that, about 70% of the kids that are attending that are taking classes from Sam Houston State University. So they've done a good job. I would submit to you that if you were looking at a public institution, higher education in Texas, and saying we want to pick out one that's more closely doing what the coordinating board would like to do in efforts to address the issues far out and closing the gap, you wouldn't be far off if you chose Sam Houston State University as doing what needs to be done. That institution has a 40-year commitment to this area that we're talking about. 40 years, not anew. This is the third oldest university, public university in the state, a 40-year history of working with the high schools there, and you're going to see in the numbers, Dr. Gatner, I'm probably getting on his line here just a little bit. About 39% of the kids that he had enrolled last year came from this very area. Well, that didn't happen by accident. It happened because this university made a major commitment to that part of the area years ago, not just lately, but years ago, and developed relationships with those high schools, with their counselors, and that's the reason they're successful in Huntsville, and that's the reason they're successful at Woodlands. The issue for us is not that we oppose at all the very fine real estate purchase that University of Houston has. I mean, there's not any question that if you made a policy decision based on real estate deals, we would have already approved this. It wouldn't be. That's not the problem. The issue is that in our conversations with University of Houston is that we've been unable to come to an agreement that they will not replicate the courses that we're offering in that area. That's simply not acceptable. Our board has put $150 million in the last few years into this university. We understand where the growth is, and we put our money where our mouth is. We've made a major investment in here, and we've tried to do exactly what you folks have asked us to do. And the facts are here. They're easy to see from our point of view. I appreciate very much you listening to me, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Gadner.
Okay. Thank you, Chancellor. And thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members. I really do appreciate the opportunity to visit with you on this issue. You know, I guess like many of you, I'd rather not be here today. I'd rather be doing something else. But this thing just popped up on our radar screen about 2 months ago, and it really caught our attention because almost 40%, as the Chancellor said, almost 40% of the students that come to Sam Houston come from an area that's within 25 miles radius of this proposed campus. And 81% of the students that we have at the MITSI, the Multi-Institutional Teaching Center in the Woodlands, are from this area. So it really caught our attention, and it came up rather suddenly. I do appreciate the fact that Dr. Gouge and Mr. Hermes came to see me last week and visited with me about it. It was very generous of them to do so, and we did appreciate it. First thing I'd just like to say is it is a very expensive proposition. I've heard anywhere from $33 to $38 million. I've heard $20 million in losses the first 3 years. The thing that I want to point out to you as emphatically as I can is that does not include, those numbers do not include the losses that will be experienced by Sam Houston State, by Prairie View, and by other institutions such as Stephen F. Austin, Texas Southern, and so on. So those numbers that are going to go into this proposed center, if it were to be approved, are going to cost somebody something. Our estimates, and I have a report right here that we shared with the coordinating board, that the first year it would cost our university $2.152 million. Now, if we decide to spend this money, and if it's well over $60 million, there are really two general basic things that could happen. Number one, enough new students would be generated from this geographical area to justify this expenditure. And the other thing is that there would be a diffusion of the existing programs. It would weaken all of the programs that are in this geographical area. And my position is, I guess, identical to the coordinating board's position, is there just simply hasn't been an adequate determination of which of those cases will be the case. If there's been a study to shed any light on that, I haven't seen it. I guess I was impressed by many of the comments made earlier today about the need for this campus, but I promise you that there are many geographical areas in the state that could come in here if they were given the opportunity and present you with an equally compelling case that they have a need for a campus. I guess my basic question is this the best place in the state to spend $60 million plus on a new campus? There just simply needs to be a more strategic, more long-range study that will provide us with a template that we can use in determining when it is necessary and where is the best place to spend money of this kind. And it just hasn't been done, and but the coordinating board, I want to say, has worked very hard. The coordinating board staff has worked very hard with a very sharp fuse to get the information together that they have. I'd also like to mention the Multi-Institutional Teaching Center that's been mentioned several times here. When this center was put together a few years ago, here was a part of the agreement. The agreement was, and I quote, "to serve the residents of North Harris Montgomery Community College District, its service area, and the greater Houston, North Harris County, Montgomery County region by providing access to quality, unduplicated bachelor degree programs." And if participants in this MITSI are allowed to duplicate courses only 20 miles away from this center, what is the value of such agreements? Doesn't it undermine the credibility of any future agreements that you might want to see put in place by other universities? We've been an active participant in this, and it has been a successful endeavor. And this type of of violation of the agreement will undermine any future MITSE agreements. So it is something that is extremely important to us. That's why it got our attention 2 months ago. But it is something that, in our judgment, just needs more study before it can be determined if it's in the best interest of the citizens of the state of Texas.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Gatner. You're welcome. Dr. Matthews, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
We obviously have a ways to go on this, as the commissioner had said in the very beginning. With the information that he's received, he has backed off, or the staff has backed off of their recommendation. Feels like we need more time on it. Obviously, the issue before us, Lori, I apologize for not being able to see you over there. We need to make a determination on when we can next meet. We will be in contact with all of the interested parties, as the staff has been. I know I can speak to their effort. Is the real estate deal was the easy part of this deal, as we mentioned earlier, and the staff has spent a great deal of their time, if not all, focusing in on all of the other issues as it relates to this particular issue. So as soon as we can regroup in terms of an actual meeting, we will talk about and make a determination on. Mr. Adams?
I think one thing we need to make clear is that we will, whatever we post will be posted for 30 days. So we will make sure that we comply.
Absolutely.
We're in a little bit of a transition here on staff, and so that's, I apologize for that inconvenience. But I think this has been helpful in terms of the input of not only the board members present, but the staff in terms of where we go from here.
All right. I want to thank everyone for being here this morning. Laura?
Chairman Shepard, I have just a question about the sense of urgency that the University of Houston has discussed with all of you, and how we can address that, and how we can maybe show some sort of intention of meeting in 30 days to make a decision so that they can move forward with whether it's an earnest money contract or whatever else they need to do. How can we address that?
The short answer right now is I don't know. We're going to be meeting with legal counsel, and hopefully we're going to have a new lawyer on board here within the next few days, and we'll be getting back with you. We're very sensitive to that issue. We know about it, and we're going to study it, so we'll be in touch. Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, we appreciate y'all being here this morning. Thank you for coming.